And hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the SFL Podcast, presented to you exclusively by 8 p.m. Music through the power of YouTube. I am the SFL Podcast host. I have been now for, coming up on 2 whole seasons, Jack Brown. And today we have, we only have two-thirds of the round table, as Rob unfortunately could not make this week's podcast. Understandable. We're going back to how we were back at the beginning of the season. It's going to be me, Ryan, and Ramos. Again, I wish I could change my name to make it like Rack or something, just so I could fit in, you know?
We'd be the Quad R's.
Taking on the SFL by storm. So, folks, it's week 11, and we got some big things happening in the SFL. We got the 800th game in league history on Saturday night. No, we're not doing any Friday Night Lights, or at least according to the schedule, or at least according to the broadcast schedule for this week. So, with that, before we get into all the craziness at prime time, we got some standard games to go over here. And we're going to start off with what I could describe in simple terms as a game that is played within the SFL. St. Louis heads over to Indianapolis. The two teams combined have 3 wins. Yeah, things ain't looking pretty over there in that little brawl. Ryan, these two teams are essentially going to have to play spoilers the next 2 weeks to even have some fun. But before they do that, I guess in this tune-up game for spoiling, who do you think is going to take it?
Uh, Honestly, I'm gonna start off by saying I'm actually surprised that Indianapolis has had the season that they've had. Their defense has actually been relatively good throughout the season. I mean, their run defense hasn't been quite as good as you would hope, but the pass defense, like I said last week, their pass defense is number one in the league, on top of everybody. I mean, it doesn't, you just don't pass against them. They got their three safeties, Paul Connolly, I believe Ashley Finch Rose. They got their two corners, Son Venuk and Steve Vitak, and they just shut down opposing offenses on the passing game. And it's honestly, for them to be 1-8 is a big surprise to me, especially looking at that roster at the beginning of the season. Um, but for this game specifically, it's kind of a toss-up. St. Louis, they started off really well. They had led the league in turnovers, takeaways, and I believe like through the first like 3 or 4 weeks, and they were taking the ball away like crazy. The offense didn't quite come around, and then everything just kind of fell apart. Uh, I believe they were 2-1, and then ended up losing I think like seven straight. I could be wrong there, but
Yeah,
it's
you're
just
correct.
I am correct. Okay, I wasn't sure. I mean they had a very promising start to the season, and just the wheels just kind, as they say, the wheels kind of just fell off. Everything just came to a grinding halt. Um, and right now, it with them being eliminated from the playoffs, as of this week, it's looking like both these teams could be looking into possibly rebuilding. Uh, we'll have to see how the offseason goes for them. Um, but this back to this game in particular, uh, it could go either way. Um, Indianapolis can, like I said, can shut down that passing game. So it's going to come down to Denzel Diaz in the backfield for St. Louis, if because the Indianapolis run defense hasn't been quite up to shore there, and if he can get going, it'll be a pretty big day for him, I think. So if they get him going early and often, I believe St. Louis takes this one pretty handily. Uh, that defense there still kind of hangs around and shows its brilliance every once in a while, but it has its moments where it just breaks down. Um, I think this game I'm going to give to St. Louis probably 21 to about 14, I'm going to say. I'm thinking they get Denzel Diaz running early and often, and he's going to have a pretty big day. Probably maybe put up Aniola type numbers. I'll put that out there.
Yeah, and here's something rather interesting historically speaking about St. Louis. St. Louis always seems to just be like only really good within probably around a third of the season length. Like I remember when I first joined back in season 9, they went like 0-8 to start the season, and then they just strung together a really good stretch. They went like 3-9, And then obviously last season, and they had essentially the exact same sort of storyline as this season. They had a really good start, went like 2-1, and then they just kind of lost it, and I think they ended at 4-8. That's just a very interesting thing about them historically, why they don't have the consistency really to show up for an entire season. That's
Yeah,
just something.
some teams just have that happen for them. I mean, we saw with Tulsa last season. They started off, I believe it was 7-0. I can never remember week to week, on a week-to-week basis what it was, and then they just kind of barely scraped into the playoffs. And then they were eliminated by Houston. And then the start of this season, they were on a pretty hefty losing streak, and Dion kind of figured out how to turn it around. And I mean, look at them now. They were one of the hottest teams in the SFL till last week when they finally got a loss, I believe, after like a 4-game win streak.
Well, they're currently riding at two straight losses after that 4-game win streak. Currently, they
That's right.
swept
You're
it.
correct. You are correct.
Yeah, they're currently sitting at 4-6, kind of on the outside of the playoff picture. Um, but anyways, we're going to be talking about some stuff happening down south, but we're not going to be talking about Tulsa. We're going to be talking about Oklahoma City heading over to Houston. Houston currently occupies the 8th seed within the wild card chase. And this game right here is very important as well. The South, it's a complete toss up for second place. First place has already been outright clinched by Tallahassee, winning their second consecutive regular season conference title. And Oklahoma City is, I think they've been mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, or, well, not mathematically, but, practically eliminated from the playoffs. So really, this game is more important for Houston to try and get that bye into the second round and not have to deal with Wild Card Wednesday. So with that, Ramos, going to swing this one over to you here. Do you think that Houston's going to be able to take care of OKC, or do you think that OKC is going to be able to really reassert themselves in the playoff hunt and also even play a bit spoiler?
I think Houston will be able to take care of OKC. I think that OKC obviously wants to play spoiler. They have nothing to lose at this point, and they will just go ahead and give it all and probably throw new plays out there, just trying to prepare for next season and just try to knock the Hyenas out. But I think that because the Hyenas need this win and they need to ensure their playoff spot, I think that they will play to their strengths, and then I think they will, be able to control the clock. So I like the Hyenas to win this game. I think it's gonna be close because again, OKC has nothing to lose, and uh, they want to play spoiler. So I will go with Hyenas probably by around a score of 27-20, maybe a one touchdown game. Um, where it's going to be important obviously for the Hyenas, just like any defense play in the OKC Renegades, to stop Tiberius Bovine. They cannot give Dick and Nick and Soul the time in the world to throw the ball to number 89. I think Chad Tackle and those boys need to put in the pressure on um, on the quarterback, so Tiberius Bovine doesn't get open. Um, but I think that the Hyenas defense will be able to do so, and I got Houston.
Yeah, definitely seeing. Personally, I would also see Houston winning that one. Ryan, if you want, I'll give you the paycheck through Bank of America. Anyways, moving on to another game in the long, long list. Well, actually, not long, long list. More like 3 games. Um, spoilers. We have Dallas traveling up to Baltimore, Maryland, to face off against the Vultures, who actually I think I saw earlier this week from TJ that the Vultures are getting some new graphics done for their logos, and they're looking pretty sharp. They're rough around the edges, I must say, but that this is why we've invented refinement for these sorts of things. But Dallas, once again, they're kind of coming to the end of another essentially nightmarish season, currently sitting at 1-8. Meanwhile, Baltimore is sitting comfortably within the wild card position at 5-3 and 7th in that race. So now, Ryan, I'm going to swing this one over to you. Tulsa, once again, they played spoiler last year, as we all know, with Vancouver. Do you think they're going to be able to pull it off again, or will Baltimore keep their nice, comfy in the SFL playoff?
Oh man, I'm not really certain actually. If I was surprised by Dallas or by Indianapolis, I'm really surprised by Dallas. Looking at that off-season roster back when the season began, I did not expect them to be in the position that they're at. It, it's just they've had an inconsistent offense for the most part. They haven't been able to get a running game going for pretty much any game all game season long. I believe like the most yards they've had were one week were 60, 65 yards ish from Royce Robbins. They have been trying to get him the ball more often, even in the passing game. They've been doing some more swing passes. I did not expect Dallas to be this far down and eliminated from the playoffs already at 1-8. And Baltimore, on the other hand, I didn't know what to expect honestly. Uh, I came into the league last season when they weren't actually a team. TJ and T Pat over there were kind of apparently just took a season off to recoup themselves and come back into the league here, and they didn't start off as hot, but they've been a pretty good team the last half of the season. That defense, I know Rob Roby would be all about Kaz McFly over there, and I'll say the name for him just so he knows that he's out there. But that defense flies all over the place. They got Amon Takes back there, linebacker, who's up there in the tops for leagues and for the lead in tackles. Um, they got Kaz McFly over there on one of the corners. I just gotta make sure I keep saying the name for Rob. He can't be with us today. Um, but I gotta give it to Baltimore in this one. Dallas has just been a little more inconsistent than I was hoping. The defense, I'm sure Crash Combs is not really happy about how the defense has played this year. Just it seems what he's been trying to do just hasn't been working out, and a lot of times it seems to be. I do think a lot of times it seems to be one or two big plays that really kind of blow it out of the water for him. Um, and just I'm not so sure about how it's going to play out for him for this game either. It's just the minds of T Pat and TJ. The last time I believe they were in the league together, they actually went undefeated in the regular season as coaches. So you could never count them out of a game. And I think this week's going to go to Baltimore. I think their defense continues to stay pretty dominant. Kind of keeps the Dallas offense in check. I still think Dallas will score maybe about 17, 21 points, but I think Baltimore will be able to put up about 28, maybe win by a touchdown, maybe 11 points. Just based on sheer numbers there. I'm not really sure how it's going to work out, but I'm gonna give it to Baltimore.
Yeah, and also, Rob, do we meet your quota? I hope we met your quota because we're not going to mention his name again. Okay, we're not going to like bring it up towards the end of the podcast out of nowhere. Okay.
Kaz McFly.
Okay, I think we officially met our quota there, Ryan. Thanks for fulfilling us right there. Um, it was funny when I said your name right there, Ryan. I was thinking Ryan Moats for a second, owner of San Francisco. See, it all
It,
fits together.
it's all full circle. We are complete now.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it's all Batman. It's all Batman. Anyways, we're gonna now swing it back out east, where the Carolina Skyhawks have reasserted their number one place out east after overtaking the Queen City Corsairs. Meanwhile, the Chicago Wildcats are sitting right at the top of the playoff hunt, sniffing at Las Vegas to try and get into the playoff spot. That really sounded weird, but you get what I mean out there, folks. And of course, Carolina and Chicago have a tight history with each other, as we all know. Shan Varner, a member of the Carolina Skyhawks legacy of coaching. So, with that, Ramos, I'm going to swing this one over to you. Master versus Apprentice once again. Always a great matchup. Will Shan be able to take out his former team, or will the Skyhawks continue on their miracle run?
Yeah, this is a very good game. Probably one of the games of the week because of the playoff implications. Obviously, Chicago needs to win this game, and Carolina obviously would like to continue winning to have the best seed available. In this case, I just think that the Carolina offense, especially the rushing attack, is too good right now. AJ Francis uh, behind those blockers, they are doing a great job. I was calling a Carolina game the other week, and it was so good to see that offensive line pick up the blocks on the front four. of the opposing defenses. And you know, in some games or in some carries rather, you see AJ Francis not getting touched until like 7 yards past the line of scrimmage. And that's, 7, 10, 12 yard gains. So I think that we will see a little bit of the same of AJ Francis being able to get a lot of really good runs. Jack Louis Ndula is having a pretty good year. He's a really good quarterback here with the Carolina Skyhawks. So, you know, they have to, obviously, Carolina's defense they need to take care of, and they need to put in the highlight on the rookies. The guys that were picked up mid-season. They have you know running back Willis, and then they have those guys, the receivers and so on that came in mid-season. So they have to take care of them. But I think that Carolina will be able to do it. They have a very good defense, and yeah, overall, I think that the Skyhawks right now have the more solid team, and they're going to win this game. I think probably by also about 6 points, about 23-17.
Y'all are just going crazy with these just single touchdown games. Where are the blowouts I'm expecting here? Come
Well,
on.
and I gotta give a shout out to Andy Hamilton real quick because he told us when he posted the broadcast schedule that any errors was Mike Dagg's fault. And I see on the schedule it's Chicago instead of Chicago playing against Carolina. And it happens to be the game that Mike Daggs is calling, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, you see, actually, mid-season, Shan has relocated the Chicago Wildcats to Chicago, Alaska. Yeah, trying to create now a rivalry with the Storm. Yeah, that's exclusive news that you're getting on the SFL podcast there, folks. So, yeah, everyone go yell at Mike Daggs in SFL chat as soon as you hear this. Anyways, but I said we're gonna go out west. You know what? I'm feeling as if we're going out west. And we spoke of Andy Hamilton. Let's talk about his team. That's right.
Look at that segue. God, it's like we planned this.
Yes. This podcast is 100% scripted. I am reading a 50-page Google Doc in front of me right now, guys. Anyways, so San Francisco heading up to Vancouver. I would probably consider this as the greatest rivalry for these two teams because no matter what position these two teams are in, and right now, it isn't the best position. Vancouver currently sitting at 3-6. They are listed as in the hunt on the playoff graphic, but they're at a very low chance of making it. They have to win out, and then a bunch of other fun stuff needs to happen in order for them to make it. San Francisco, it looks to be another season come and gone. But anyways, with that, Ryan, we're sending this back over to you. It's the Battle of the Northwest. Who do you think is going to take this edition?
Oh man, gotta give me this one. This one I'm not really sure on. It seems every time these two teams play over the last two seasons when San Francisco joined the league, it's just been a dogfight of a game. I mean, the end result may not give you the tale of what the game actually was. But this game right here is gonna be a pretty good one. I think it's gonna be another dogfight. Um, San Francisco, I mean, got a shout out to the boy Rob. He's on there. He's got his guys over there. I'm sure he's getting them fired up. He's wanting to play spoilers to some of these teams for their playoff hopes. And I mean, who wouldn't want to? I mean, it's always a fun little time. If you got to look for something to look forward to every time you kind of get eliminated here. And Vancouver's in that prime spot. You could just ruin everything for them. But I gotta give the edge to Vancouver here, and I mean I'm a cornerback on the Hyenas here, and I love defense. That's the whole reason I chose to play it. And Vancouver's defense is another one of those defenses that do really well. They actually have one of the lower points per games allowed, um, down around 20 points a game, 21 points a game. It puts them about the top 10 in there. Um, so I mean, it's always nice. Your defense can play that bend but don't break. They do allow only 208 yards passing, which is third best in the league. And then their rushing is about 103 yards a game, which is actually a pretty decent number. Puts them about right in the middle of the pack for the league there too. Um, but it all comes back to that points per game. I mean, you can give up all the yards in the world if you don't give up those points, or you're giving up only field goals in the game. outside of Mexico City, the team's not going to beat you. I mean, it just comes down to that basically. And I'm liking the Vancouver defense and the way Andy's got that defense playing. I feel that one of these seasons he's gonna figure out that offense once more and make his way back to the playoffs here. And I know that Cade Stevens catch still weighs on his mind and everything. And I'm hoping it's not psyching him out too much. And I do see him coming back and getting into the playoffs here. Maybe next season, maybe the season after, we'll see. But as far as this game, I got to give this one to them. Keep their playoff chances alive here, at least in this season. Um, I'm probably it's going to be another touchdown game. I'm going to think probably around 14-7 maybe. Pretty low scoring game.
Y'all are gonna make me drink for how often you guys are saying that these things are gonna be one touchdown games. Which, you know what? It's officially now a drinking game. SFL Podcast drinking game.
Let's do
Every
it.
time these guys say it's gonna be within a touchdown, take a shot. And obviously, don't do it if you're underage or whatever. The stuff. Even I can't partake in this game. I'm only 16. Darn legal thing.
I'll take a drink in
One,
your honor.
it's just Ryan. You show up to work tomorrow. It's just like, hey, I took double the amount of drinks, so I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine.
I told this one guy I knew online that I would take a drink for him, and I took a couple.
100. Oh, man. But we're gonna be talking about inebriation. We're gonna go over to Denver. Sure, it's the wrong time, but you know what? Being drunk and high is the same thing at this point. And the Mile High City is taking the team with the highest latitude on in the league in Alaska. Alaska, they've outright clinched the West, their second consecutive title out there. And if they keep it up, they could actually win the SFL regular season championship. However, they're essentially running parallel with Tallahassee, which, if they meet up in the championship, both at 12-0, or actually, let me double check. I think they hold time to check and see if they meet up within these last couple of weeks, because I think they do. Hold on one second, everybody.
I know week 13 Houston plays against Tallahassee. It's not looking like it. Tallahassee in week 12 plays against Dallas, and then Tallahassee week 13 plays Houston. So more than likely, if they're going to face each other, it'll be a rematch of last year's championship game.
Which honestly, I think that might be one of the few times ever that like a repeat championship is actually like the most hyped thing ever. As opposed to the NBA where everyone wants to just blow up the league.
Well,
4 straight, and imagine this year it's going to somehow be Cavs Warriors again. But anyways, before we get too far off track, Ramos, since you've been quiet, please put us back on track here. Is Alaska just going to get win number 11, easy peasy lemon squeezy here, or will Denver's thin air be able to allow Alaska to, I don't know, pass out, and then maybe Denver would win? Maybe.
I mean, it's gonna be a tall order, obviously, when you go against this team. I think that Alaska will be able to pretty much uh, get off a good first quarter. Probably get some points in the first quarter, about probably a touchdown, and yeah, I think that Denver will be able to by the third quarter. Alaska, it is. So by the third quarter, try to, pull away. And I think that Alaska will be able to win this game by double digits. See, Jack, it's not a one-score game anymore. I think it's going to be by double digits. Probably I will go with Alaska by the score of 30-20, um, in a game where, hopefully Denver, for the sake of us who are the watchers, wanna see a competitive football game, obviously all the time. Hopefully this is going to be a closer game, but I think it's going to be the situation where probably Alaska's winning 30-13 with 2 minutes left, and the backups are in for Alaska, and they allow a touchdown in garbage time or something. Uh, but I think that about 30-20, 32, 31-17, something like that. I think Alaska will be able to win this game pretty comfortably. Uh, they have a very strong passing attack. I like the Denver secondary, but I think the passing attack of Alaska is a little bit better than the defense of the Denver Nightwings, at least in this game. and I like the run stopping defense of Alaska against Jared McChesney. So yeah, I think I will go with Alaska by about 10 to 13 points.
Finally, a game that isn't decided by a touchdown. Folks, you don't have to take a drink right now. Ryan, are you okay? Have you not passed out yet? Good. Um, I was gonna send it over to you next. Anyway, now we head into prime time, folks. And first off, the Sunday night showdown on Twitch. Tulsa at Tallahassee. Well, many people were probably saying was going to be the championship game last year. And oh boy, if that was the case, that would not be good. But yeah, Tulsa currently sitting at 4-6, and Tallahassee is Tallahassee. You can probably expect their record from there. As I stated earlier, they've already outright clinched the Southern Conference's 2018 summer season championship. I don't know why I went that long with it. I should have just said season 11.
Nah, just roll with it.
Yep. Again, I'm only 16, guys, and I'm sober here. Okay. But anyways, Ryan, we're gonna swing this one out to you.
Boo.
Ramos,
Um,
what did you just say?
No, nothing. Go ahead, Ryan.
I mean, so Tallahassee, you kind of brought it up. They've clinched the Southern Conference. I hate to do this to Tallahassee, but I gotta bring it up again. I know it's a little sore subject, but they haven't lost a game other than the championship game from last season. In the last two seasons, the regular season, they are currently 21-0. I believe they've already set the record for the longest winning streak in the regular season. I think it sits somewhere currently around 24, 25, dating back to season 9. Um, it's just the one blemish, and I mean they're a team. That just never seems to stop. Frank Gooden out there, he has this team firing on all cylinders at all times almost. He's got that D line with the forward star defensive lineman pressuring the quarterback at all times. Their defensive backs seem to be in the perfect position not even half the time, like 80% of the time. They got that semi truck of a running back in Aniola. The golden arm is only second to Ron Cochran, and Christian Christensen. This team is just it's gone crazy, and I mean I'll probably be lynched if I don't mention Ken Gossett. I mean I mentioned just about everybody else, and so it's just a team that seems to be the perfect timing on everything. If one cylinder doesn't quite fire, all the other cylinders fire up even more just to cover for it. I know it's not how an engine works, but it's my engine and I can have it work how I want. Um, but for
Clearly, none
Tulsa,
of us have STEM degrees.
so but Tulsa for them, they started out rough. I believe it was 0-4. They came back with a four-game winning streak to break even again, and actually put themselves in the second seed a few weeks ago in the second seed of the South. And then they had the last two losing games lost here, and it's just uh, to me, Dion knows what he's doing. He just has a string of bad luck every once in a while that kind of just beats him down a little bit. Um, he's obviously shown he knows how to win. He made the playoffs last season. He started out 7-0, and if I'm wrong again, I apologize, Dion. But um, is he knows what he's doing. He knows what he can do, and I'm sure sitting at 4-6 does not sit well with him. And could Tallahassee lose here? I mean, in all possibilities, yes. In my mind, not so much. I don't see them kind of giving up too much on the Tulsa offense here. And I mean, it's not probably going to be a close game either. I mean, it's not going to be another touchdown game just like Ramos with the Alaska Denver game. I'm thinking Tallahassee gets kind of a blowout here, possibly 35-7, 35-14 maybe.
Yeah. Now we're almost going to swing this one over to you before I deliver some pretty big news. Who do you think is going to win this one here between Tallahassee and Tulsa?
I agree with Ryan. We'll be able to win this game pretty comfortably. I just love what I saw from Christensen this previous game. He was able to throw the ball all over the yard. He had like Grayson Willis going berserk against the defense. You know, going post route, corner route, post route, beep 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 3 touchdowns and like 200 yards. And I think that even though Tulsa's secondary is pretty stout, I think that the Tallahassee Pride just have so many weapons on offense. Obviously, they have Yaya and Iola back there. They have Ken Gossett. I mean, they just have so many pieces on offense that you know it's just it seems that it's so easy to score for them. And defensively, they have a good pair of corners. Um, they're solid. They have Alex Bond at the safety position, and they have that ferocious defensive line. So I agree with Ryan. I think that Tallahassee will be able to win this game pretty comfortably. And the score, I agree with it. It's going to be like probably 34 to 16 or so, 35 to 10 around the area. So again, for the sake of for the sake of Tulsa himself, obviously, hopefully we see a competitive football game. You never know in the SFL, and hopefully we see a close game. But I think it's gonna be around that ballpark.
Yeah, and much like the SFL, you never know what happens in the NFL. And guys, guess what just happened as we're recording this? The Cleveland Browns have won their first game since December 24th,
No way. They
2016.
oh my gosh, no way.
Yep, they beat the Jets 21-17.
All right, well, congratulations, Cleveland. You got the Cavaliers and you got the Indians, and then you got the little pile of feces here, the Browns. I mean, you couldn't have a worse name, but this pile of feces has made you proud today.
1-1-1.
They're now ahead of the Steelers in the NFC in the AFC North. Just to really rub the salt into the wound. But also, that makes
who
here's the
who in the offseason would have thought that Cleveland would be ahead of the Steelers?
I don't know. But before we get back on track, like that actually makes me really sad as a Lions fan to know that the team that obliterated us in week 1 lost to Cleveland. I'm sorry, but I'm just gonna quit being an NFL fan now. This has just gotten too stressful. The only thing that's remaining the only thing that's remaining predictable is the fact that Ramos's fantasy team will suck.
Are we
Oh boy.
now joining the hashtag
See,
boycott NFL?
Just because Cleveland won. Yes. But we were speaking about great milestones. That was a great milestone. Congratulations, Cleveland. Maybe now get a road win. Have you ever heard of that? Yeah, it's pretty crazy, ain't it?
Oh my gosh.
Here's another landmark. Game number 800 for the SFL, and we're traveling down to Mexico City for this one. As the Sioux Falls, we don't need the fanfare here. As the Sioux Falls Sparrows travel on down to Mexico City on Saturday night to take on the Aztecs. When these two teams first met earlier in the season, Mexico City shut them out. That's all you need to know. But how the tides have changed. Mexico City currently riding on a 3-game losing streak. Sioux Falls, well, they're not. Simple as that. Ryan, do you think Mexico City is going to get back on track at home against a team they've already shut out? Or will Sioux Falls just kind of reassert their dominance in this little rivalry here?
I'm gonna go with Mexico City. I don't think it's gonna be a shutout, but I'm gonna go Mexico City. Um, Been on a little bit of a snide here with 3-game losing streak. Started off losing to Alaska, and then to Houston. I can't remember who it was last week. I don't know if I want to bring it up with you guys. I might not. Just if I don't show up to next week's podcast, you know who to look for. Um, so, but I gotta go with. I do have to go with Mexico City this week. I'm the defense. Like I said earlier, I'm a defensive guy. The defense is still just lights out legit. It's just the offense that has to have its moments that come around here. The 800th game, that would be one heck of a game to actually get the second shutout of the season against the same opponent with Cam Irvine and Steve Molinix calling that game. I mean, I couldn't think of a better time to be able to get that second shutout against the similar opponent. Would be a huge statement for Mexico City, and it would definitely be a confidence booster, a morale booster as we get into this last little part of this end of the season here, kind of pushing into the playoffs. Um, so I feel like this is the week though. They had a little bit of a snide going on. I feel like the defense comes alive, and this time, if the offense isn't going, I feel the defense will just put it on their backs and start scoring points on their own. We'll see how that goes. Maybe a TD for Jack Brown. Who knows? Let's see.
Well,
Um,
here's the thing. I've only had one pick my entire career, and guess who that was against, guys? Sioux Falls.
well,
It's all a conspiracy.
it's
It's
all
all
a
a conspiracy,
conspiracy.
guys.
So first pick, let's see. Shut him out early this season. Could be your first touchdown. Who knows? I mean, you never know. It's the SFL, like Ramos said. Um, the flip side is for Sioux Falls, if they're going to win this game, their defense is going to have to basically match Mexico City punch for punch. I mean, you normally hear that when it's two offenses going at each other, just having to slug it out back and forth. I'm thinking it's the defenses this game. They're going to have to just literally grind this game to a halt and minimize the amount of offense that either team gets, and whichever one is able to do that best comes out on top. I don't know if Sioux Falls has the personnel quite to do that. I mean, they're not bad in their own right. I mean, they're a pretty decent defense as well. Um, it it's just Mexico City's is almost another level. I mean, they've been top three in points per game basically throughout the season, allowing just under 18 points a game. Uh, and actually, I stand corrected, by the way. I was saying that Indies had the best pass defense. As of this week, it is actually Mexico City having the best pass defense in the game, I believe. No, nope, that's offensive. My bad. That's the worst passing offense in the league. My bad. Um,
What did you just say?
so no, it's so basically going back to it though, Mexico City is top three scoring defense still. I mean, it has under 17 points a game. I was off by a point there. Um, but their pass defense is fifth in the league. Rushing defense is sixth in the league, I believe it is. It's just this defense is swarming. They the only knock you could do is a 50% third down conversion rate against them. But even then, it's just that's still about middle of the pack for the league. I mean, every all the teams average right between 40 to 50%, and so I mean it's not too much of a task for that. Um, they're +7 on the turnover differential. I mean, the defense, it's one of my favorite teams to watch if I want to watch a defensive game. Um, for Sioux Falls, looking at them, they're literally right below uh, Mexico City with the turnover differential of 6. Their defense is also no slouch. They're only allowing 21.78 points a game. One of the best rushing defenses in the league, actually the second best rushing defense in the league, second only to the Queen City Corsairs. The passing defense allows under 300 yards per game. So in this league, it seems like some of the high-powered offenses that win the games, but it doesn't seem to be true, to be honest. Mexico City was a good example of that for most of the season. They just had a string of losses that kind of could have gone either way, honestly. I mean, one play goes their direction, and they could easily be 8-1, 9-1. I mean, it just that's how it comes down to basically. Um, but this game, I'm going to give it to Mexico City. I think it is going to end up being a defensive slugfest. Uh, I almost want to say like 12-7, and Mexico City wins by field goals, or even possibly 12-0. I think the defense comes back and just fights with a massive vengeance, and they might possibly pitch that second shutout this week. We'll see.
Good. Yeah. Once again, we'll make that check out to you as soon as possible.
No, we'll just call it
Ramos.
even.
Yeah. So Ramos, looking into this game now, obviously we have dogs in the fight, but this is another big stage for the Mexico City Aztecs to be put on. This has not fared well for us so far this season. But what has been your keys to kind of looking into Sioux Falls and hopefully beating them a second time this year?
Last time when we stopped calling hard, and that's what we need to do. I think that the Sioux Falls Sparrows, though they have a very good quarterback, Hall of Fame talent at quarterback in Julian Tyree, I think that offense as of this season goes as far as the rushing attack goes. So I think that just like last time that we matched, we need to stop the running back. We need to stop calling hard. Um, and just try to contain the edges. What Sioux Falls likes to do is something similar what Queen City likes to do, which is kind of going outside the tackles, running, try to put the running back in situations where he can get open. So we need to contain the edges, and offensively, we need to start running the football a little bit better. Our offensive line has to play a little bit better. We allowed a lot of sacks against Vancouver last game. So, the offensive line has to play a little bit better, and the rushing game needs to click. So, I think that it's going to be a low scoring affair where both offenses will struggle to score points, as has been with our games for most of the season. So, you know, it's going to be important for us to be able to get turnovers for both teams. I'm saying, to get turnovers and try to get some points with those turnovers. It's even 3 points. In a game like this, I think could be huge because this is a game. Just like Ryan was saying, this is a game that could easily go and like 15-10 or you know something like that. 13-6, something like that. So I think that in a close scoring affair like this, take points when you can get them and try to get a turnover here or there. So Sioux Falls needs to also be able to put in the rushing attack sharp and you know just try to get the turnovers and try to get in the position to try to score some points with those turnovers.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention, since the last one was within a touchdown, take a drink, everybody. And boys, I think that not only is this next game going to be in Vegas, but after tonight's podcast, I think we all just need to go to Vegas here, not only to watch London take on Las Vegas, but take in the nightlife. I've heard it's pretty good this time of year.
Oh
The Vegas
yeah,
Golden Knights are about to play.
I've been out there around this time of year. It's pretty nice. It's still about 100 degrees even at midnight, but I mean, you survive it.
Somehow. But yeah, London heading over to Las Vegas. Las Vegas is number 10 in the seedings. Meanwhile, Las Vegas is at 3-6, essentially fighting for their playoff lives. So it's a big game, obviously. Saturday night, game 2. It's going to be on YouTube. So, Ryan, I got to ask you here. Who's going to take this? Will Las Vegas hold on to their 10th seed, or will London keep their playoff hopes alive? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this game is literally do or die for London. They lose here, and I believe it's like a 99% probability they're going to be eliminated. Um, they win, they keep their hopes alive. It looks like Las Vegas, they got to win to keep themselves in contention here, especially if Chicago ends up going over top of Carolina. They do own the tiebreaker over Chicago at the moment. Um, so this is definitely a do or die game for the most part for both teams. London to stay alive and Las Vegas to kind of keep their position. Uh, just unfortunately for London, I feel like this is the end of the road. I feel like this is going to be the week that's going to take them out of the contention here for one of the wild card spots. Las Vegas, they got Robert Redford in the backfield. He hasn't been 100% effective every game, but averaging for as a team 144 yards a game of rushing a game. I mean, you don't just kind of fall into that. And on the flip side of it, London has the worst rushing offense in the league at just literally over 1.1 yards above 17 yards a game. Um, I'm not sure what kind of happened there. I don't believe they have a star running back. I know they had one last season. I feel like they might have tried emulating the Alaska championship formula. It just didn't work out for them. I'm not sure what exactly happened uh, in that instance there, but they do sling the ball all over the field. I believe they're top like three, top five offenses, or actually top two offense for passing outside of the Dallas Lobos, who pretty much have a commanding lead on that with Shabazz Synergy over there. Um, so If London is going to be able to win this, they've definitely got to get that passing game. I mean, the rushing game obviously has shown it just hasn't worked. Where we're now going into week 11 and averaging only 17 yards a carry is just not going to cut it. So I would say you got to go with the passing game and just put your game on the shoulders of Nathan Lee and just let him throw it all over the place. And it all depends on how that's going to play out. I mean, the uh, the defense for Las Vegas could be swarming. They could be taking the ball away, giving the ball back to their own offense with Ramen 316 and Robert Redford back there in the backfield. And this is a game that you Ramos are going to be calling here, and I'm hoping you get a good game, but I'm not sure if you're going to be able to. I'm thinking it's going to be Las Vegas, probably 21-7.
Now, Ryan, would you say that this week for London would be the end of the Abbey Road?
Oh my
I'm done,
goodness.
everybody. I'm done. I'm
Just
officially done.
mic drop. I'm out. Let's do this.
We're done hosting the
No,
podcast, everybody.
come back, Jack. Come back to us.
Back. But Ramos, you're calling this thing down in Vegas. I hope you enjoy the nightlife. Hope you get some good stuff with Eric Vincent. But how do you think the actual game is going to
Make
play
sure you
out?
stock up on your Four Locos for heading out there.
Tom Pepper materializes out of nowhere, starts screaming for Loco.
Well, I agree in some degree with Ryan. I think that the lack of balance will hurt the London Knights. I think that they have to involve Kristen Carr as much as they can. Uh, but when you look at it, this is a Vegas team that has the linebacker to match up in Levon Irvine. They also have the corner, sorry, in American Terra. They have a strong secondary. A lot of these teams have in the SFL have a strong secondary. Mary Katera is a proven guy, and that's something I really like for what Vegas did. Even though they are a new team, they got some experienced guys. Fast Johnson at the defensive line. Uh, Mary Katera out of the Sharks with experience, with knowledge, and I think that they will be able to match up well against the London Knight offense. I agree that the London Knight offense will have a lot of struggle to move the ball. So overall, I think it's going to be down to the London defense, be down to Davidson at the linebacker position, who low key is one of the best pass rushers in the SFL. You know, I would say he's top five maybe in the SFL. So let's see what he can do. Let's see if he can put some pressure on the QB, on Thomas Raman, the rookie. But I think that the Vegas Fury have the stronger team right now, and I think they will be able to come away with victory.
Okay, although you really should be making picks since you're calling this game here, Home Slice. Uh, we're gonna ignore that as we jump to the final game of the week. It's part of the brawl for second down the South. New Orleans heads over to Atlanta to take on the Swarm. New Orleans currently holds second place in the South due to head-to-head tiebreaker over Houston. Darn it, I thought it was going to be one of the really weird and confusing tiebreakers the SFL uses. And it wouldn't be just something that simple. Like,
I know. Sorry, we got to disappoint there.
little it was like common games record plus proximity to nuclear power plant. Meanwhile, Atlanta is only half a game behind New Orleans and is completely out of the playoffs. That just goes to show how tight the race is down south. And of course, Atlanta's hosting it. A battle of rookie quarterbacks to end off week 11. Ryan, who's going to take this one?
Oh man, to be honest, I feel in my gut that New Orleans is going to come out on top in this one. They got that connection that I deemed way back in the draft when they drafted Xander Gold and they drafted Wolf. I think it's Matthew Wolf. I could be wrong on the first name. I called it the Golden Wolf connection, and it's been proven pretty well for them so far. And I feel like the Golden Wolf connection is gonna pop up here again, and it's gonna be it's gonna sting this Swarm. Let's put it that way. Here, we'll just put some more puns in here for you guys. And no, in all seriousness, Aaron Arrington over there in New Orleans, he's really turned this season around for his team. They had a rough go of it after their first. They had a bye week in week one, and then the second week of the season, they ended up getting blown out to start. Um, and I mean, they beat my team, Houston. Uh, I mean, obviously they've figured it out. They've become a pretty hot team over the last couple weeks of the season, and right now they have themselves sitting currently in the second seed of the South, and going up against Atlanta, where literally one game could make or break your chances at making the playoffs coming out of the Southern division. Uh, every game for these last 3 weeks for any of these teams is going to be extremely crucial outside of Tallahassee. Um, that's pretty much what it comes down to. I give this one to New Orleans. I think Xander Gold's going to hook up with his receivers for a couple touchdowns. Then again, I mean not then again, but as well, Marcus Dunhill over there in Atlanta is going to be able to do the same. Get LB Allen III involved. Get Boo Chisholm involved. It's going to be. I think this one's actually going to be a pretty high scoring affair. But I'm gonna give it out to New Orleans here, and I'm actually gonna go pretty high. I'm actually gonna go probably 42-28.
So everyone's livers remain intact. Good. We always like to see the livers of the SFL remain intact. So Ramos, you're giving the last analysis before we send off this zany episode of the SFL podcast. Who do you think's gonna win this game between New Orleans and Atlanta? Let's just end it off with a simple question.
I think that Atlanta will have late to win this one, and a very close affair. And I like Atlanta. I like the three very good receivers and have a good running back. Um, and defensively, I really like one to shine matching up against Donk Bunker. So I think that Atlanta will be able to come away with a victory in a close one. I think the experience of Mark Chisholm's coaching will be able to triumph in this game. So I will go also high scoring affair. I will go with Atlanta by the score of 34-30.
And to end off, you have to take a drink because that was within 6. So if you're still conscious, thanks for tuning in to this episode of the SFL podcast, presented to you by 8 p.m. Music, some zany fools on the internet through the power of YouTube. I'm your host, Jack Brown, and alongside 2/3 of the round table, see, I can roll my R's like no other. Ryan, that was pathetic.
I know.
Show him how it's done.
I don't want to be too loud. I got sleeping children.
All right. Well, you see, this is what happens when you're a teenager. Anyways, from myself, Jack Brown, alongside Ryan Michaels and Ramos Lynn, we say thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of the SFL podcast. And have a great weekend full of SFL football, NFL football, and even college football. So much football.